Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're talking about our career people, and I'm going to use the book. It's still one of my favorites. And I always say he doesn't cover everything, but he does a really good job of making it very, very simple. And I think most of us just struggle with remembering who goes to who. Okay. So if I say strong interest inventory, who does that belong to? Anybody? Ooh. Holland, yes, Holland. That's where REASET comes from. Strong interest inventory. Okay. And then remember also what's the computerized version of that test? Yes, self-directed scale. Perfect. Self-directed search. And the cool thing about that is it was not something that was it was the first time a test was computerized, that we could actually learn and you could do the test, and you could also then interpret it by yourself. You didn't need any interpretation. Okay, so I usually start with the regular ones, and I want to start with some different ones today to make sure you kind of know who everybody is. So usually when I say Holland and Super, you're pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to look at Savickas. So Mark Savickas. So what he did was he was a postmodern career guy. So postmodern just means that they were new. That's all that means. So most of our theories of career came from like the 40s and 50s, right? If we look at far back, I think that Parsons started like in 1930, I believe. So most of those have been around for a really, really long time. So postmodern just means new. So he was a constructivist. And constructivist means, I don't know. So the people who believe in constructionist theory, whether it's career or anything else, they say that that's a term that we make up. That the fact that someone needs a career is a construct. Constructs are things that we can't touch, right? They're intangible things. So postmodern guy, and he said that career counseling is not viewed as the expert or the career counselor, but an active agent in assisting clients to make sense of their own life. Okay, so it's your phenomenological view in that word. If you didn't go to school, if you went to school more than like 15 years ago, you might not know that word. Okay, but so your phenomenological, that's the way you see life. Okay, he said individuals construct careers through identifying and presenting small stories in response to questions. Okay, so all that really means is when I say that he is a constructivist theory, he believes that the roles of like Holland and all of those people are definitely not as important, and those are constructs that we just make up. Okay, so that's Savickas. H.B. Jalot. What's he known for? Anybody? Jalot is known for not planned happenstance, the other one. Positive uncertainty. Planned happenstance belongs to Krumboltz. Positive uncertainty belongs to H.B. Jalot. And that really is the only question that you'll see regarding H.B. Jalot. He said, be certain that your career is it's going to change, and be certain about it. Okay. So he had 5 steps. He said, recognize, you need to make a decision, collect the data. I've not seen these 5 steps on the test. Anybody who's seen them, let me know, because I usually don't teach the 5 steps. What I teach you is that his career model is called positive uncertainty. Okay, and what he said is that be positive, but things are going to change, and be sure that things are going to change. So you can do all of these things to plan your career, but the future is uncertain, and it's not a bad thing. Okay, so if you said anything else regarding him, that's usually all I teach, because he is a decisional making therapist. So he had a plan. I haven't seen the detailed steps of having to know his theory, but he has positive uncertainty. The future is uncertain, and be positive about that. Okay, so we know when we talk about Holland, that Holland is my trait and factor guy, right? We know that for sure. So what we know is Holland's theory was based on both Frank Parsons and E.G. Williamson. Okay, so E.G. Williamson was the Minnesota viewpoint, so we'll pick him up right there. But Parsons, that word actual, A-C-T-U-R-I-A-L, or matching. That's what that means, trait and factor. And Frank Parsons wrote Choosing a Vocation, okay, in the 1909. Actually, he wrote that on his deathbed, which I thought was pretty exciting. Won't really test, but pretty cool. So if you know yourself, know about yourself, and then learn about the career, then those two things should match. They should be congruent. Okay, congruency is when it matches. With some of our other therapists, we talk about congruent, saying what comes out of my mouth should match my body, right? That mouth and body language should match up. So that's what congruence means. So then he is not a decisionist, right? There's no decision, it just matches. E.G. Williamson came along later. He redefined trait and factor. Okay, he used again those 6 steps, but most often all you're going to see about E.G. Williamson is that he was a Freudian. So he was a follower of Freud. So he believed that a lot of those theories, a lot of the trait and factor was unconscious. Parsons did not believe that. He thought they were, very real, thoughtful choices. Okay, E.G. Williamson did not.
So you said a trait and factor is unconscious. That's what you said?
I said E.G. Williamson believed it was unconscious. So yeah, so I think I've seen maybe one question on him. Has anybody else seen a question on E.G. Williamson that's taken a test before? Okay, so I usually mention him, but I just don't see, he's not one that I was.
For mine, I didn't see it. For my test, I didn't see it on there. They mostly had a lot of career decision making on my stuff.
Okay, so I'm not going to say that he wasn't on there, because if you don't recognize those steps, you might not know him, but he's not a biggie. When we think about E.G. Williamson, and we think about trait and factor, we always think about Parsons. Okay, so but you might see a question on him, but he is not one of the big ones, but he's one that you should know. Okay. So sociological or situational models of career development. There are sociological reasons why individuals choose the career that they do. Maybe it's your occupation of your family, your ethnic group. Other factors include your risk behavior, work identity, and your social mobility and your career mobility. So that is the sociological reasons that you might choose the work that you do. Situationally has to do with the situation and the environment. Okay, so depending on what happens out there, the labor market, who's hiring, when's a good time, all of those things that also influence. So sociological is what's going to happen on the outside. Sociological is the people, and then situation is what's happening in the market at that time. Okay. John Greitz. So he is known for my 3 Ds. Okay, he did the career maturity inventory. So he came up with the approach. He said that, all right. Give me just 1 second. Okay. So the career mature inventory by Kreitz. So he had it, this came up with this when he was working with high school kids age 9 to in grades 9 to 11. So he's known for the 3Ds, but also the 4Cs. And this is where the Kreitz maturity inventory came from, is working with this population. Just a little history if you want to know. That won't be on the test. But so 1973. So you see how new that is. So he can't, that's when he did the career mature inventory. Okay, he reproduced it, but we don't need to know that for the test. But the goal was really to look at high school kids to figure out where they were. Okay, so they were either in the concern level, they were in the curiosity level, confidence, or consultation. So concern is, yeah, I'm a high schooler and I need to get a job, right? But not really there. Okay. So confidence scale measures the extent to which the person has faith in their ability to make a wise career decision. Curiosity, that's when you're exploring the work. Concern, so now you're really ready to make some decisions. And consultation, that means that you have made some decisions and you really are ready for someone to kind of sit down and walk through the path with you. So those are the 4 C's. Kreitz is the career maturity scale based on this. That's where it came from. He decided how mature his high school kids were when it was time to take that test. Okay. He's also known then for those 3 Ds. So I say the 4 C's and the 3 Ds. Okay. So diagnosing. So first was a differential, like what's the problem? Dynamic, why has this problem occurred? And decision, how the problem's being dealt with. So this is how he did career counseling. The people came in and couldn't figure out what they wanted to do. So those are the terms he used, those 3 Ds.
So, we have to know the 4 C's as well, or just the 3 Ds?
I've seen the 4 C's as well.
Okay.
Okay. And that also helps you remember the Kreitz maturity scale because it comes from those 4 C's. So Kreitz was client-centered and developmental. Whenever I see a developmental theorist, that means ages and stages, right? Whether it's a career person or anybody else, it always means ages and stages. Okay. He counseled with those stages to begin with, and later on he began to use some psychodynamic, that means Freudian stuff, some unconscious stuff, and finally he ended up following a trait and factor behavioral approach. So again, you won't need to know all of that. I have not seen that at all. It's really just a matter of knowing his 3 Ds and 4 Cs. Okay, vocational maturity, and then that is the career maturity inventory. Okay, so in general, when we say it's a decision model, what we know is there are 4 factors in making that decision. So, and I've seen this question, if anybody else has seen on the test before. So 4 factors are your risk-taking style, your investment, whether it's your personal time, your energy, your money, your personal values, and your self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a term that belongs to Bandura, and that really is your belief in yourself and the thought that, yes, I can do this. Okay, so the decision-making style. So if you see that decision-making model to career development, okay, remember, I haven't talked about him yet, but Havingshurst was the non-decisional guy. He said it wasn't a decision. So remember, they were written in the 50s and 60s. They were really, really made for upper class white males. Think of like, Leave It to Beaver, The Mom in There, Archie Bunker. I would say like Bewitched, if you remember that name, because Darren went off to the office and she stayed home and twinkled her nose. So that's the kind of, think of that time frame when you're thinking of most of these career theorists. Okay, they really didn't look anything about women until later. Okay, and most good career theorists are still evolving. So the Holland trait and factor, that is the one that has actually been proven to work with with everybody. So Sack, studies have shown it works with people of different color, people of different races, or different women as well. So that's the one that is still, those were in the 50s and 60s and still pretty valuable today. Those terms, undecided versus indecisive. Somebody tell me what those mean.
So decided means that you know the information and you're trying to make a decision. And undecided means you don't know the information. It's hard for you to make a decision.
Okay, so let's try that again. So indecisive means I know what I'm doing and I have to make a choice. So indecisive is I have 3 jobs coming up and I have to choose one of them. Undecided means I really don't have a clue yet. Okay, so I always think I have to go to a party tonight and I'm trying to figure out what to wear. So if I'm still at the mall picking dresses, going in and out of shops, I'm totally undecided. Haven't a clue. If I'm in my closet now trying to figure out what dress to wear, I'm indecisive because I have choices. Okay. Indecisive implies that with more information, the individual has problems making a decision. Okay. And it's not just in your career. We see that in all parts of your life, that you just can't make a decision. So then, some of the terms again. So your career is your lifelong. So if you ask me, looking back at my career, I have been a social worker for the last 30 years. I have had many, many different occupations. Okay, I've been in private practice. I have worked for lots of agencies. I have lots of stuff. So those are my different occupations, the different work activities that I've done in this career. My job is what I do now. So career is the biggest, then occupation, then job. Okay. So according to Super, all of the work and life roles engaged in one, those life roles, leisurite, child, all those things, that's what Super said. Okay. So your career is lifelong. It's everything that you've done. And then your occupation, those are the many different work activities. And then the job is what you're doing now. And only careers come with a lifestyle. So the assumption is if you have this great job and you've had this great career, then there's a lifestyle that goes along with that. So lifestyle refers to the person's orientation and preference in regard to career, family, leisure place of residence, work climate, and overall style of life. Okay, so in there, you'll most often see the spillover and the compensatory. So spillover is when I take my job home. Okay, so does what you do on the job spill over into your leisure time? Those of you that are doing notes right now that you didn't get done this week, right? Because we shouldn't do that. That's unethical, by the way. But we all do it. We've all done it. So that is what spillover is. The other one is compensatory. So do you compensate in terms of using skills, abilities, interests for what you cannot do on the job? So you do something very different off the job. Okay. So I've seen a question about a woman who loves to sing. She loves to sing, and she works in a dental office, and she can't sing in the dental office. So on her weekends, she goes and she sings karaoke. So you're compensating for what you can't do on things that you can't do during your work time. Most often we're looking at something totally different than what you do at work. So a tax attorney who is very, by the books and always following the rules and having to get the numbers turned in, what it might look like for him is he might do something extremely risky, like, skydiving, because that risk taking are things he can't do at his job. Okay. Career guidance, and career counseling. So most often I've seen those used interchangeably. I haven't seen them used differently. Okay. The difference between personal versus career counseling. The question that you usually see is with career counseling, I'm leaving with something. I'm leaving with you gave me an inventory, you gave me an interest test. I have an idea of where to go. So when I leave career counseling, I have a lot more information than I came in with. And I know that you get information personal counseling, but career counseling has a definite set goal. Okay. So career counseling is not billable. You cannot bill for career counseling. It's unethical. So if you see a question about a person who comes in and she is billing people for anxiety, they have career issues and they have anxiety, but she's billing them for the anxiety, that's unethical. Okay. So integration of career planning with mental health counseling. Okay, so rather than viewing clients holistically, mental health agencies are more concerned about a reductionist viewpoint. What will be paid for by third-party insurance, right? That's what that means.
I can look at that chart.
Okay. Okay, so career development with people with trauma histories. I've seen that as well on the test. I'm not going to pretend, I'm sorry. I've never taken the test. I am a social worker. I am not a mental health counselor, so don't let me ever say that to you. When I tell you that I've seen on the test is I have seen older examples of the test. And I have students that take it often. So I get pretty good feedback on what's on there and what's not. And if I'm wrong, I always ask that you please tell me. Okay. So if you're working with someone who has a trauma, so we're going to make sure that we really develop that we treat them kind of differently, or taking the effect they've had some trauma. That's almost like trauma-informed counseling. Okay. So with clients with a history of trauma, be transparent, establish trust, ask for permission, and focus on the here and now. Okay. If you've ever talked about or looked into trauma-informed counseling, those are the same kind of steps. We always want to empower the person, make them feel safe, okay, but also be transparent. Part of the code of ethics says, we've got to be realistic with the client, okay. So establish a relationship, of course, that's like any other counseling that you would do. Identify the problem, assess, provide information, okay, some career decision making, and then implement and follow up. So all of those steps are the same things you would do in counseling, whether it's a career or not, right? Rapport, what's the problem? Do an assessment, provide information, help them make the decision, and then follow up. Okay, so those are the steps we're looking for. Counselors must be sensitive to unique characteristics of each client. So diversity, make sure that we're aware of diversity. Back to this one. Encore career, I passed that one up. Let's go back and talk about that. That word encore career means that I am going to do something after I've done my job. I've had my whole life, I've retired, and I come back. That is an encore career. Okay, so whether it's for necessity or boredom, it's still considered encore. I always think about if you're at a concert and once they leave, everybody yells encore, encore, so they'll come back. So that's what you're looking for in those terms. Portfolio.
So you coming back to the same career?
No, you are not. No, you're not. So
something different. Okay.
Something different. Yeah. Okay. I think about in the real world, like what I see in my area is we'll see people that are retired and come back and become like the greeter at Walmart, or sometimes stocking at the grocery store. Okay, so it just means that once you retire and that you come back to work.
I have a question. I'm seeing a lot of studies and research on here. Are we going to need to know that?
No. So I usually go over the things that I go over are important.
Okay.
Okay. So there's not a lot of those. No. Okay. These terms you might see them in other areas as well as careers. So the term latent and manifest. So if you've grown up in church, you'd hear the pastor say that, you need to manifest your dreams, make them happen, be able to see it. So latent is hidden, and manifested are things that you can see. So manifested interests are determined by examining what a person is studying, previous jobs, etc. Okay. Express interests are the words spoken. If you see latent, if you see manifest in any other parts of the test, just vocabulary, so you'll know what those terms mean. Tested interest means that I took the REASAC or the Career Maturity Inventory or something. So a tested interest means I've done this test, and this inventory, this interest says that I am good at being a doctor. So it's been tested. Okay. A couple of ones that you will need to know, and so we usually cover these also under assessment, but a couple of ones that you should know. Your aptitude test, most often you're going to see your ASVAB, okay, Army Services Vocational Aptitude Test. Your ASVAB looks at your potential. So when the Russians beat the U.S. to the moon, the Americans were really upset. So came up with this test to get the best and brightest that we had. So what we did is, started recruiting kids in high school. So if you were well in the sciences and the math and, maybe in the drafting, those kind of fields. So you would do better on in those skills, and they wanted you for the military. So that is the ASVAB. Okay. The general aptitude test battery, I've seen that before in studying. I don't know if it's on the test or not, but that's just the aptitude test as well. Okay. But most often the one you're going to see is the ASVAB. Okay. When it comes to achievement tests, remember achievement tests are that you've earned it. The NCE is an achievement test. The ACT, the GRE, those are achievement tests. And while the GRE is also a predictor test. So it measures how much you've learned, what you've achieved, but it's also a predictor of what you would, how much you would learn in college. Like the ACT, all those things are predictor tests as well as achievement. The NCE is not a predictor test. It doesn't tell how well you'll do, whether you have a license or not, because many of you are quite aware of people that have a license and you're thinking, how did they get that? So it is not. So interest almost always means careers, okay? Not always, but oh, I'm looking for a career if I see interest. The strong inventory belongs to who? You know that. Who's that belong to, guys? And the verse 2 belong to the same person.
Holland.
There you go. There you go. That's where reassert comes from. Perfect. Okay, good, good. The cooter is one of the newer ones. Did my screen change?
No.
Okay. Okay, making sure. Someone asked in the chat box. Okay, so the cooter is a newer one that I've seen. And I haven't seen a lot of, Sharon, log back in and log back out if you're still seeing the 4 C's. It just means that your internet is probably a little slower than mine. Okay. I really haven't seen a lot about the cooter, just knowing it is one of the newer tools. The Myers-Briggs, you know that one, that's your MBTI. That's based on Carl Jung and his 4 archetypes. Let's see here. Let me show you these. So the world of work map, show you what it looks like. It really doesn't tell me a lot. So it really kind of looks at the different careers based on where you're at. So if you like to work with data, these are careers that would be data and things, right? Working with things, ideas and things, working with ideas, people and ideas, working with people and people and data. So it just kind of gives you some career interest, knowing what you want to work on. And then it kind of divides it into those reasons. Remember, INTRA, intrapersonal, is always me, just me. INTER, inter, think of intercourse, that's other people. So intrapersonal is just something about me. Inter usually is a group or some kind of relationship. Okay. So those are 12 regions, and there are 25 jobs based on those 12 regions. Okay. So that's what it looks like. That's my world of work map. Put that in your chat box. The OOH, most everybody knows. That's my occupational outlook handbook. That just looks at what jobs are out there, whether how fast they're growing. It tells me everything but where to get the training. So let's see here. Let's see what is the highest paying is usually my psychiatrist. Let's see if that's, nope, still the same. Obstetrician, gynecologist. So my doctors are making over 200,000 a year, it looks like, and it's updated often. Okay. So if you're looking for, you've got a kid, and sometimes even in regular counseling, you're trying to say, hey, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to be a counselor. So you're going to kind of just search and let him see kind of what's out there. So we can look at substance abuse, behavioral disorders, and health and mental health counselors. Okay. So according to this, you just need a bachelor's degree. So you can make $47,000 a year. Okay, it's a pretty fast growing rate. Okay, so 23%, that's definitely a lot higher than some careers. So there's always a need for counselors. Tells you who you work with, the outlook, and all of those things. Okay. So it also gives you where you could link it to find more information about addictions counselors. It's going to give me the link to ONET. Okay. And that gives me the same or more information regarding, again, counselor, what kind of jobs and what kind of things are out there. The task, what we need to do to be a counselor, or what you would do. Okay, so maintain confidentiality of records, etc. Okay, so some kind of knowledge you would need, some skills, social perception, active listening, speaking, reading comprehension. Okay, so that just kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like. So you can use the occupational outlook and to go to ONET to find out more information on any of those. Okay. Close out some windows here. Okay. Let's see here. SIGI 3. SIGI 3 is it's made for college or high school kids most often. It kind of allows them to keep up with their job searches, their references, things like that. You're assigned like your own little space. Not that one. Okay. So it's a software. Okay. So SIGI 3 is what we call it. And it really just kind of, it allows you to have like your own cloud to share your information. So whether assessments you're doing, any of my guidance counselors ever use a SIGI 3?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't.
So it's you have to purchase it. You have to buy the license to see it. But it really is just kind of like a cloud where you can study keep your resume, look for jobs, and kind of everyone is assigned their own little cloud space. So that's my SIGI 3. Discover, I haven't seen that a lot anymore. It is part of the ACT. So when you get your ACT scores back, in real life, many times you'll get things that you'll be good at, and it's usually kind of on those ACT scores, but I haven't seen that on the test recently. I haven't seen the Magellan 7 either. I have seen choices. Everybody seen that one?
Yes.
So it's the same kind of thing. Again, it's made for high school students, same kind of thing. You're going to create your portfolio, your resume, jobs you may be interested in, but those are all programs that the high school or the colleges can buy to help you decide what to do. Of course, you can internet search. We do know, though, that jobs are, most of the jobs are found through social networking. Knowing somebody, knowing there's a job opening. We know that when jobs are posted, many times there really is not anything out there. It's already been filled. Okay. So besides social media sites, educational resources, financial, military, job listings, all of those things. Okay, talk about ONET. Discovery, the DOT is probably one of the most boring things I've ever seen. I'll show you what that looks like. So it gives you 9 digits. The lower the number, the greater involvement of that job with data, people, or things. So let me show you. that one. Okay. And what I've seen on the test mainly is knowing that it has 9 digits, not necessarily knowing what they mean, but just knowing they have 9 digits. So let's say that I'm looking under benchmarks. Okay, so let's say I want to work in assembly and repair. I'm just going to break it down again to more occupations. It's going to keep breaking it down, and those are the codes. So it's a 9-digit code of what you're looking for. Okay. So that's what it contains. And again, I've never seen anyone have to know what the digits are. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong. I've only just seen knowing that the DOT has those 9 digits. Talk about OH. The hidden job market, like I said, most of those jobs are gotten through networking, not actually through, just finding a want ad. Near 80% of jobs are not advertised. So what you're looking for, especially if you see the question about a career counselor in elementary school. So remember when you were little, or maybe you as an adult, you went in and talked to your kids' class about your career. So at my elementary level, it's just career awareness, knowing what the possibilities even are, right? So we begin to do career exploration in middle school. Then high school, I should be oriented towards some sites of career. And when I leave high school, I should really have been prepped. Okay, so taking like the classes it takes to get into my college or my vocational school, what it takes to get there. That displaced homemaker. That's a woman who's been a homemaker. Maybe her children are gone. Maybe she's divorced. She's been a homemaker her whole life. So she's looking at the job, and we're helping her use those skills that she used at home, definitely to help her find a job. Dislocated most often is downsizing or, COVID. Okay. Dual careers, dual earners. So that usually means that mom and dad both have careers. What we found, though, is that it's still not the same, that women still do most of the household chores. Okay. So that's some kind of the potential, and sometimes the issue if the woman makes more than the man. In general, women are 55% of the number of women in the labor market is about 55% of all working age women. Women make up about 47% of the workforce, and they earn about 82% of what men do, equally among younger workers. When men and women work in, however, more men than women work in part-time jobs, which pay less. Okay. That glass ceiling, know that one. The glass ceiling means for women that we can see the top, but the career ladder, the top is still mainly occupied by white older men. We're seeing changes, but that glass ceiling is what that means. The term family of origin, you might see that other places. That just means the family you came from. So that's who you came from, your family of origin. FMLA, yes, you get 12 weeks of unpaid leave. Just won't be on the test. They do guarantee you a job, not the same job, but they guarantee you a job. That term gig economy, of course, that talks about all of our online freelance kind of jobs. The fastest growing occupational in the next 10 years, solar and wind installer technicians, healthcare professionals, and related occupations. That's because of those baby boomers, right? Those are getting older, so there's a much more greater need for that. And the slowest one is locomotive firers. The people that put the coal in the locomotive, I kind of think those are going away. Okay. Respiratory therapy technicians. What I've heard with that one is that we just have a lot of equipment now that don't necessarily need as many people. When it talks about unemployment, we know that the Black male is the most unemployed, then the Black female, Hispanic male. So that's going from the least to the greatest. So white males, white females have the lowest number of unemployment. Black males, Black females have the greatest number of unemployment. We do know there's a relationship between education level and your lifetime earnings, right? In general, the more education you have, the more money you'll make. We know that's not always true, but that's pretty much what it looks like. Outsourcing is when we send our stuff outside of the country because the labor market is a lot cheaper. So we send those Walmart and other companies will outsource to a different country. Workforce Innovation and Opportunity, WIOA. So working in the college setting, we see a lot of that. It's a grant fund or stipend for adults who were in some sort of field and that field maybe went flat. So it consolidates programs for unemployment, training, adult education, as well as programs under the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. And what that looks like in my area. So and I haven't seen it since any issues with COVID. I don't think that's come up yet. But when we had the first recession back in whatever year that was, whatever year that was, during that first recession, a lot of like real estate people, a lot of other people just kind of lost their jobs. Those jobs went away. So WIOA is a stipend or to help them go back to school and learn a new career. Okay. Just want to go over some of the terms that we'll see. We always go over the names, but sometimes it's nice to know some of the terms that you might see on the test. Okay, so we're going back up. We're going to pick up some other people. Okay, we talked about H.G. Gillott. We talked about Savickas. So Bandura is my self-efficacy. Bandura is my social learning guy, right? And Krumbold's also, his career theory is based on Bandura also. But the theory of self-efficacy is based on the belief that I can do the task. So I may not be the smartest one, but if I try hard enough, I can get it done. Okay, so the cornerstone of his theory is that an individual's expectations will influence whether a behavior will be initiated, how much effort will be expended, and how persistent the individual is in face of the barriers. Okay, so self-efficacy has 3 legs that kind of determines it. And if you've heard me before, I always use the same example. It really has to do with, like in Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, right? She talked about the high school guidance counselor told her brother that he was Ivy League material, but told her that she was not. Okay. So people who have differing self-efficacy just see the world in a different view. So when we define self-efficacy, the way it develops, okay, so she said, Bandura said, it is a vicarious learning. So learning through others, right? It's the people that sit in the cubicle next to you and they've passed the test and you have it and you're thinking, oh my gosh, how did you get a license? Right? Physiological feedback. Physiological is my body, the way the sensations feel in my body. So when you are studying, you're in group with me and I say, right, you're like, yes, I can do this. I can do this. Verbal persuasion, whether it's saying you can do this or you can't do this, either one of those is going to, again, determine your self-efficacy. So sometimes we do things just because you told me I couldn't. Like, okay, I'll show you, right? And then performance outcomes. So the closer we get to our goal, the closer we get to what we need, then again, it increases our self-efficacy. So the goal is really, it looks at, how much you are working, what are you putting out, and how much do you want it, and not necessarily the smartest person in the bunch, but you're determined to get it. You might see social cognitive theory. That's the same thing as Bandura's social learning theory. That means exactly the same thing. This is the CIP. You might see this one too. CIP is the cognitive information processing model. And what CIP suggests is that we're using our thinking cap, right? So it starts at the bottom, the same way trait and factor does, that I know myself and I know the career, right? And then it's going to go through the decision-making cycle, okay? So that is communication. I'm going to communicate, I'm going to analyze, I am going to synthesize, I'm going to look at my values, and then evaluate. And all of those things together, all of those different thought patterns, that's called metacognitions. And those metacognitions will then help me survive this career or get into this career and make that career decision. So there's not a name you need to know with that one, just know CIP. Tiedemann and O'Hara. Anybody know about them? I know you do, somebody. So Tiedemann and O'Hara talked about there are two choices. We're either worrying about getting our job and keeping our job. So he said there were two big phases. The first one is worried about getting your career. So exploration, crystallization, make a choice, and then clarify. I haven't seen questions on that part of anticipating the career. I have seen questions on the second part where it talks about the phase of adjustment or adjusting to the once you've been hired. So Tiedemann and O'Hara said we were worried about getting our job and worrying about keeping our job. Okay, so the induction, I've started into this field, this new job. I'm not really sure who I am. I'm, just kind of, figure out where I sit and what I do. Reformation. So reformation is the change, right? The agency changes, I change to match the agency's needs. And then after a while, the integration happens and newness wears off. That's when I'm going to start making decisions and telling people what I really think, right? So your excitement of the job may diminish, but you're now part of the company. So he said there were two phases, worried about getting your job and worrying about keeping your job. And so again, there are four choices there, four phases there. And the other one, there are three. And I have seen the three phases before. And again, guys that have taken the test before, if you have seen those first phases, please let me know. Okay. So that is Tiedemann and O'Hara. Let's talk about, make these over. Row. So in some of the study books, and somebody pointed that out to me this week, that most often that the attention, she said that she's modeled her career after Freud. She is unconscious. She is a Freudian, but her career was modeled after Maslow and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, but she is an unconscious one. But if it asks you which theorist she modeled her theory after, it is Maslow. Okay. So what she said, of course, she's known for fields and levels. That's what you're going to look for when you see her name, fields and levels. So what she said is that the way that we were raised determined our orientation in a career. Okay, so she matches up approaches. She divides them up, her theory, into two main careers: the theoretical aspect of personality and the classification of occupation. Okay, so then again, inspired by Maslow. So she came up with the psychological needs that develop out the parent-child relationship. So again, on the test, it is not Freud, it is Maslow. So then what we look for is, there are three levels. So how the parents saw the child. So if we look at her circle, then what she said was, so if my parents are cold, so that means that they avoided me, that was emotionally neglected or emotionally rejected, or if their parents were concentrated on me but were over demanding. All three of those would make me have grown up in a cold household, not necessarily friendly toward people, right? So I'm not looking for a job for people, with people. If I grew up in a home where they were very accepting, they loved me and cared for me, they were a bit overprotective, but I would still be in that warm zone where I'd be looking at a profession towards people. Okay, so that's why she looked at where it came from, your parents, right? Your mom and dad, how they reared you. So then she divided those into levels and fields. There are 6 levels, and that's the level of skill it takes to get that career. So either unskilled or all the way up to professional management. Those are 6 levels, but there's also then going to be the actual 8 careers. Okay, and she divided those up by how we are raised. So again, if I was raised with a cold family, my major orientation is not towards people, I'd go for a field in technology, something outdoor, maybe a science. If it was toward people, that read, okay, so I'd be in the service industry, business industry, maybe organization, general culture, and arts and leisure. So she's known for her fields and levels, and she is really modeled by, she followed that based on Maslow, that what we didn't get, that we were going to get from our careers, or how we were raised, we get from our careers. Okay, so that is Ann Rowe. The other woman we have, of course, is Gottfriedson, and she is known for what?
Circumscription and compromise.
Yes, there we go. So what she said is we are, I would say circumcised because it reminds me of gender. But what she said is we are circumscribed by society, by our parents, to make certain career choices. So what she said was, as we're growing up, there were 4 stages we went through. That first stage, and those are on the test, and many times knowing them in order. Okay, so orientation to size and power. So 3 to 5, we really didn't care. We just knew that those jobs were for grown-ups, and we didn't really care. So between 6 and 8, I'm starting elementary school. What she said is that now we're seeing that girls, we're seeing the beginning to see the difference. Girls are most often getting toys like Barbie dolls and the Easy Bake Oven and those cute little things to be a good wife. Boys are giving toys that are career related. They're given the army uniform. They get the fire truck, the police truck, all of those things that are much more related to careers. Then when I am 9, so I am starting that middle school age, I'm beginning to learn my value to society based on, again, the way I was parented, as well as parents and society. So, girls don't do that. Girls don't do that. Girls don't behave that way, right? So I'm learning that my value as a girl most often is to be, what is that? What little girls made of? Sugar and spice and everything nice, right? Little girls don't behave that way. And the boys again, be tough, go out and fight, get a basketball scholarship, practice, all of those things. So by the time I start high school, now I've internalized that. So what I've heard my whole life growing up, what girls do and what boys do, I've now made that part of me. So that's your circumscription. Now I say circumcision because, it's a boy-girl theory. So then when I am circumscribed that way, then it tells me that I'm going to have less choices, or my choices in my career are going to be narrowed. That's the compromise part. Okay, so what she said was that there's a zone of acceptable alternatives. I will stay in this zone. So yes, I'm a girl and I was reared to be pretty and cute and do all those nice things, and I love my job. However, I could be a truck driver. I could, that's in my zone. That's in my zone. So my realistic zone is down here. Idealistic, yeah, I could be a truck driver. I can do that. However, what Godfreyson said is, if it were highly prestigious, if it were my big old picture on the name of all of those my truck company, that I wouldn't take the job. That it would be anything that's too prestigious outside of my circumscription, I wouldn't do. So while the male would be the manufacturer of a feminine hygiene company, he wouldn't want his face to be the face for that very feminine issue. So most of us are going to stay, she said, in our zone of acceptable alternatives. Okay. So that is Godfreyson's theory. So she is circumscription and compromise. Okay. I don't teach Hopcock. He's not going to be the right answer. You should know everybody else, so I don't teach him. Okay. I talked about Rowe and her fields and levels. Okay, so she looked at the parental influences on early childhood experiences. She believed that careers were chosen to meet needs based on, again, how we were raised. My fields and levels, my 6 levels, and my 8 fields. Okay. Gansberg, and others. So we know that Gansberg and others came first. They borrowed, stole, sampled. Okay, from super. So their 3 stages were fantasy, tentative, realistic. Okay, and when you're reading those questions, make sure that you're really reading them to know what is happening in those ages and stages, right? Okay, those are my career theorists. I'm sorry, my developmental career theorists that super borrowed from. Krumboltz, of course, was my social learning guy, right? So Krumboltz said that there are 4 umbrellas of how we make that decision. Mainly what Krumboltz wanted what people to do was to look outside their comfort zone and perhaps do some different things. He used the career beliefs inventory. Okay, so he looked at the beliefs that we had that led to that. So then he said, of all of these things, and I always use Gianna Coley Bryant's daughter as her deceased daughter as an example. So we know that genetically she had some skills and some talents that I was not born with. I'm just saying, right? Okay, and so things that she was genetically born with. Her environment, everything about her environment was hard work. Basketball is important. Teamwork is important. So everything that she learned and she saw modeled in that social environment really just reinforced her upbringing, right? And then the behavior. So, when she didn't do her homework and she didn't practice, there were consequences, right? So all of those things would have led her, we believe that she probably would have had some sort of excellent career in basketball. which is great. However, what Crumbles is looking for is, let's say that your mom and dad didn't go to college. Mom and dad, your social environment was, hanging out until 6 o'clock or hanging out till the street lights came on, and then I had to be in the house. And when I studied, it wasn't reinforced. Then I don't have that. I don't have high expectations of myself. So his belief inventory really questioned those beliefs. So your genetic, your environment, and your learning experience. And really what he wanted to do was look at your belief system based on on that theory. Okay. And he said that you should expand your capabilities. People should prepare for challenging jobs, feel empowered to take action, and career counselors should help clients deal with all career problems, not just occupational ones. Okay, so it was how you believed yourself, how you saw yourself. That's that career belief. And we also said, remember, he is planned happenstance. So the idea that people can prepare, create, and prepare for and create opportunities for unexpected events that may lead to a career selection. So he said, yes, you're prepared. This is what you're going to do. But should an opportunity open up, don't let it go by. Don't be so stuck in this is your plan not to take that opportunity. Okay, career counseling should help clients develop curiosity, persistence, flexibility, optimism, and risk-taking. Okay, so that is my planned happenstance, and that, of course, is Crumbles. And you'll also see that he is my learning guy. Okay, I'm going to pick up some questions. I didn't go over Super and Holland because surely those are the ones that you know. Those are we've talked about them a lot in general. So that was Gottfriedson we talked about. So Holland, of course, is trait and factor and reassec. And then we talk about all those stages, and we talk about Super. Okay, so those are the big people that we cover. Brill is one. We don't usually cover Brill. He's an unconscious guy. He believed that those issues, your trait and factors, they were unconscious choices. Let me see here. Let's find just a different test than I normally do. I just look at it a different way. Questions, guys, on careers? Mm-mm. Okay. So these are, I think, many times, so you think I studied all the careers and I still don't know the answers to some of the questions. And I don't know where you'd always find the answers to some of the questions. Some of them are based on your knowledge, and most of them are just based on reading skills. So look at number 5. What does an employee performance evaluation tell a company? D, the training level and present employee skill level. It is A. Both B and D. Okay, so any concerns the employee may have, as well as identifying the training needs and present. And I do know on the real test, there's only one answer. I do know that. Okay. Okay. Sexual harassment is a big part of the work environment and takes place in political and academic settings, as well as in the workplace. Which of the following choices is a true statement about sexual harassment? Older women who report are often ignored. Younger, prettier women who report are often said to be asking for it. Victims often face difficulties such as unemployment or demotions, or if they resist certain reports, and that is true. All of those things are part of sexual harassment. There's a question I've seen in the study material about, it's a code of ethics question, because you know with the code of ethics, if you have a problem with a person, you're supposed to go to that person first. Okay, so the question was, if you're having if you believe that you're being harassed by your supervisor, okay, so you don't have to go to that person first. So the question was like, go to HR, because in general, we always, if there's a problem, we go to that person first, but with sexual harassment, you don't need to do that. Okay, I didn't go over these. So my X theory, that is my scientific method, that is where you put widgets in holes. It's been around forever. The Y method is the humanitarian approach. The Y method is, I say why, because yay, the employees love it. They have more input, but work gets done slower. Okay, so then there are two basic types of management. It is theory X and theory Y. Theory X, the employees hate the work, but the work gets done. Theory Y is humanitarian work effort, and then that is again, so the employees have more say-so. Theory X and theory Y are, yeah, anybody seen it on the test before? No?
No.
I've seen it in study material. And sometimes it may say scientific method, and sometimes it may say the humanitarian method. It is more than being under careers. It's sometimes under that program management part. Okay, so let's keep going. A key method of theory Y management is the idea that people involved in implementing a decision are also involved in making it. This is referred to as what? That is theory Y. Got it. Participation, everybody gets some say-so. Again, the problem with theory Y is it does take sometimes longer to get things done. Oh, let's go back to that. Okay. Nearly all companies do employee evaluations at least every year. During the evaluation process, there is something referred to as the halo effect. What does this refer to? What is my halo effect? There's also something called the horns effect. The horns, of course, is the opposite of the halo. I see, oh, we're across the board. The person is perfect. The tendencies to rate people too high or too low on a one outstanding trait, or a tendency to rate people because of the sum of all their characteristics. It is A. So something about charismatic people, people who are attractive. They think somehow if he's trying to sell me the vacuum cleaner, it must be the right one. Okay. Do you guys know Yavis and Quad, Q-U-O-I-D, Yavis and Quid, those terms?
Yes.
Explain those to me or to the group.
I think it's young, attractive, ugly, or something like that.
So
it's related to the counselor, right?
It's related to the client. So okay. Yavis is young, attractive, and I don't know I can remember the rest of them, but I remember the YA and the QU. Those are the quiet, unattractive people. So counselors would rather work with people that are young and attractive. So I saw a study question about a counselor who was working with someone who was unattractive. And the answer was, what does he also think? So he also thinks if she's unattractive, then she also probably has some other qualities about her that are not necessarily desirable. So because she's ugly, then she must be stupid and poor and all those other things. So that is from the counselor's viewpoint.
Dr. Pam, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
This question that we're looking at right now,
Mhm.
I might have heard you wrong, but I thought you said the answer was A, but then when you scrolled to the answer, it said it was C.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing that out.
That's okay, no problem.
It is C.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out, guys. The tendency to rate individuals too high or too low on the basis of an outstanding trait. Okay, so
Thank you
that
for
one
clarifying.
was C. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
Yeah, no problem.
Career counselors can help people develop the skills needed for effective job seeking. What are two of those skills? What would a career counselor help someone do? B. Got it, got it. Got it, got it, got it. Here we go. That's in my realm. When meeting with a client, a career counselor might think in all those, right? An interest inventory, self-exploration, and teaching decision-making skills, right? Especially if we have clients who are indecisive. You got it, you got it, you got it. Good, good, good. So in social cognitive theory, when I say that, remember that has to do with Bandura and his self-efficacy theory. Okay. Counselors may assist in what? In the social cognitive career theory. I'd say A and B just because that's there. And, again, the test isn't written that way. Okay. So both. In that theory, they may assist the client in analyzing their perception of barriers to career, identify closed occupational activities. You may work with the client to change their perceptions and to problem solve. Okay. So that is my social cognitive theory. That means that is going to be Bandura. So look at this one. Modifying faulty self-efficacy beliefs. I see A, I see some B's. Okay, answer is B. Okay, develop new performance beliefs and reanalyze past experiences. So how'd you come up with that one? Tell me where you chose that one. What in the question, or was that just the best answer?
Because it's that efficacy and beliefs, and I know that self-efficacy has to do with believing that you can. So it's the performance, I would say.
Got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay, so then help him develop new beliefs. So if you really didn't know that question at all, I really just try to word match. So I'm thinking, what is it? So when I talk about modifying faulty self-efficacy beliefs, and I know it's a Bandura question, I'm looking for a word that would match those words if I had no idea whatsoever. Okay, so adjust their attitudes. It doesn't say anything about that. regroup their skills and organize their resumes. So that doesn't have anything to do with a social cognitive career person. He wouldn't do that. Okay, and I could have picked none of the above, but it's self-efficacy beliefs. So I'd be looking for an answer that talked about that. If I had no idea, I'm going to word match. Okay. Talked about this one. What is the role of the OOH in career counseling? It is not a paperweight. Now, especially since it's digital, of course, it's B. You got it. You got it. Who created the archway model of career determinants? Somebody be brave and tell me what it is. What is the archway model? Come on.
I know it has something to do with the internal and the external of a person.
It does. So what he said is there are two pillars. And again, this is super as well. So when you're studying super, make sure you know that his archway model. Okay, so it really was. So he said one of the ways that we determine our careers is by looking at what's happening on the biographical. So my family, how I've grown up, my beliefs, and if it matches what is happening in the economy at the time. Okay, so I always say that, you know, I come from a family that is, always been in the military. We value service, we value military. I value that. So that's what's happening to me. And then, you know, it's a good time, we're pulling out of Afghanistan maybe, so we decide this is a good time to join the military because of what's happening in society. So when all of those match, then I find my true self. So you're absolutely right. That's what it meant. Good job on that one. That's super's self-efficacy. Super's archway determinants, which is different than his life spaces, life roles. How many classifications are in Holland's theory of vocational? Sec has how many letters? You got it. Sec. Realistic, investigative, artist, social, enterprising, and conventional. Remember, my conventional people, those are the people that are, they are exact on the dime. If I ask them how much they have in their account right now, they could tell you without even looking at their phone, to the penny, right? They're the bookkeepers. They're the people that need that order. In enterprising people are people that can sell you anything. I can sell you anything. It's the girl in the mall squirting the perfume, and you've already bought 12 kinds, and you buy some more. Okay. In Bender's social cognitive theory, what is the meaning of self-efficacy? Okay. I see some A's. There you go. Individuals' belief in their ability to organize and perform the actions required to produce a desired outcome. A person who scores highly in the realistic area of Holland's vocational type is who? Will be a realistic person. So realistic is across from social. So my social people like to work with people. My realistic people like to work with things. So on his scale, you couldn't be both R and S.
I remember on my test when they had a question related to that, they would give me like I guess like an occupation, like say someone wants to be a teacher, and they would have a which one of these would be the least types of I guess types of how should I wrote it types of
Their
what do they
occupation,
call
yeah.
yeah which one would be the least according to that occupation. That's how they were it was worded on my test.
So I would think that teachers are social, so the least would be realistic, the one across from it.
Right.
Okay, so that's why you learn them in order. Ria, Sec, because you're the three next to you. You can be those three, but you can't be the one across from you. You can't be both realistic and social. Thank you for sharing that. $29. We're going to answer on that one. Who are they talking about in this question? Okay, super, right? Because it talks about life roles. That's a super word. That's a super term. So I think that's what you're looking for, right? Because it doesn't say his name. It doesn't say his name. I've got to know that life roles belongs to super. Okay, so it was D. Your life roles taken into consideration throughout the career path in the stage of life, of course. So what are the meaning of life roles as applies to career counseling? A, we take on the variety of roles in life as we age, and this affects our career choices. B, life roles are how a person perceives oneself. C, there are no life roles as it applies to career counseling. And the answer was A and B. Okay. And again, those belong to super. Okay. In super's development of self-concept, one of the stages is exploration. What is the age range for this stage? Remember, gemmed his stages. So between what stage is exploration? Let's see, bees. You got it. So while I'm exploring, that is the major task. He also had those tasks that you should, the sub stages sometimes, or the task. So like between 14 and 18, I should be in that crystallizing, getting an idea of what I want to do. Right. And then when I implement, then I'm going to specify when I start college. Okay, so those are knowing those as well as stages.
Dr. Pam, let me ask you one question before you move on.
Of course.
About those stages of crystallization, is exploration, is it first or crystallization is first?
So exploration, what up for you?
I seen it where it said crystallization first and then exploration, but then I saw somewhere where it had exploration first. So I want to make sure if I'm learning this correctly.
So this is my favorite way of looking at it. Okay. So you're always looking at these are called the maxi cycle or the stages. These are the task. Okay. So then in exploration, so this is where you're at. Okay. So what was your question?
When learning it in the Howard book, it says super's vocational task, and it starts crystallization age 14 to 18.
Right.
And then it lists specification, implementation, stabilization, then consolidation.
Got it.
So what I'm saying is exploration, is that first, then crystallization and specification?
So those would be included in that. So you see, exploration starts at 14.
Mhm.
So 14 to maybe even about 25, right? That's exploration. So that would get all of those stages. Because crystallization happens between 14 to 18.
So that's
Well,
both of them. So
that would be implementation too, because you should be in your career by the age of 25.
right.
It's not a matter of which comes first. It's knowing that this is the maxi cycles. These are where I am. These are the tasks it takes to get where I am.
Okay.
Okay. So exploration wouldn't necessarily mean implementation, or that it would mean all of those things that happen during that age period.
Mm.
Okay. So the goal is to learn both, kind of learn this is what happens at this age, and knowing the major task, which is agenda. Okay. And ethics. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap you up. Okay, we just covered some of those different categories when it comes to looking at the careers. So usually I go through like the big career people and just want to kind of look at it a little bit differently. Okay, you will get a copy of the video. You will get a set of test questions, all those good things. This one came off my Kindle, so I can't send you this one. I don't know if it's worth anyway. It's not one of the better ones. It's just something I kind of use sometimes to just do something a little bit different. So that one is the counselor exam prep. Again, not ever suggesting that you buy it, believe me. Okay. Questions?
Dr. Pam, I went to the boot camp yesterday. Would I be able to get the email sent to me for that recording?
So do you recall what I said yesterday about her being married and happy and stuff?
No, I had sent the email, but it was just saying it was unavailable. So
yeah, because she's married and she wants to spend time on the weekends with her husband. I don't know what that's about. So you will get it. She usually comes back by Sunday night. But yeah, you'll get it when she is back. She doesn't work on the weekends.
Okay, thanks.
And this also, guys, when I stop recording, the video will be right here. I usually go up and upload it to YouTube. It'll be in this chat box for 30 days. But then I will come back and put a YouTube link in there. And that YouTube link, of course, will be good forever and forever and forever. Okay, but anything in the chat box is here for 30 days. So when you have the link, go back and you can go back and look. Any other questions? Well, have a good one, guys. Bye.